This computer. Okay, I think we're good now.
All right. Yeah, so if you go to, on the left-hand side, there's a connected orgs menu there. Go in there. And go ahead and hit new at the very top. Yep. And then you could call it, Veritas production or,
Okay.
yeah, that works. You can just put whatever in the description,
I'll just
or
leave it.
or you can leave it blank, or it doesn't
Mm.
really matter.
Mm.
That one's not required. This name here that's in this form is what's
Mhm.
going to show up on the log records. So that is the only thing that you really have to be concerned with when you're creating these connected orgs, because then you'll have a meaningful value that's associated with the log records that you do in your reports. You can, it'll make sense where the error is from.
Yeah, let me just actually do a little bit
Okay,
cleaner
that works.
name. Okay.
Okay, and then org type is production, and here's the login URL. So are these guys, do they have, I see that they have a my domain, but is it set to only log in from my domain, or no? Or
It should not be.
should not be restricted?
Yeah, they
Okay.
not, at least not for admins, because they do have, like, they are kind of Microsoft shop, so they run for SSO. So technically, the users have to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Be
okay, that's
going
fine.
through like LDAP server, but
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so then the login URL should work. If there is that restriction where, yeah, go ahead and hit connect. It'll take you to a new page. And so you just type in the credentials for the Veritas environment and go ahead and hit login. And then hit allow, and then that should take you back to the to this here. Yeah, we have this bug in this version. You just have to refresh the page. It'll show up. This is fixed in the later version. So yeah, so if you go to connected orgs, again, on the left-hand side there, you should see that production org show up. There it is. So it's good. So now it will, when there's an error generated, it will actually connect to that environment, or to itself in this case, and it will pull that metadata. Okay, so now we could set up our Jira integration. And to do that, we have to first do a little bit of prep for that. So if you go to id.atlassian.com, I think, or .net.
Let me see, like here I have already like session stored in the browser, so it's easier. So it was where was it? Administration?
Oh, perfect. Okay, so if you go, so if you go to account settings, yeah, it's kind of weird. They change this all the time too. And then on the left-hand side, there's the security and API token, create and manage. Yep. And you've got one there, but I'm not sure how to get to it, honestly.
That's the one. Well, yeah, I guess. So that's the one that we created last week.
Oh, okay.
Our org.
Okay. Oh, so this is for your org. So yeah, maybe it makes sense to do a different one then for this org. And you could just call it, Veritas, whatever, Veritas Pharos or something.
Let me do this real quick. Just.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's good to name these. Okay. So this will not show you this token again. So we just got to make sure it is it's tracked. But if you go to Pharos, it'll actually be there. You can click on the little lock icon and it'll show you that value. Okay, so now we can go to integrations and go to Jira and go to authentication. Okay, and you can go ahead and copy that token in there. Your email username, you can use again, it's good to have like a user that is the bot that's on whose behalf all of these
Hmm.
tickets are going to get created, but it is not required by any means. So you could,
It's like a dedicated
a
email
dedicated,
for
yeah,
this org, right? That would be the best
or it,
practice.
yeah, that is the best practice, yeah.
Because what I'm
Although
thinking
we,
is, yeah, because
mhm,
we're gonna have like, for example, like in this case, let's say these guys don't use Jira, they didn't actually use anything. But so we're logging their stuff into our Jira, one of the Jira
correct.
projects in our Jira workspace, and then also then we will be logging, let's say, our stuff also in the same Jira, but under a different project. So I'm guessing then we should have like dedicated email per org, if
You
that
you
makes
can
sense.
yeah, you can do it that way. Although you're going to need a lot of Jira licenses for this then. um, but what you could do is you could just have one user and then manage separate tokens for them.
I
So that
see.
way, yeah, that works just as well.
But I'm wondering, so if we have like, let's say, a sandbox and a prod
Hmm.
for for each sort of
Yep,
instance, so basically that's like 4 separate logs coming into one Jira account.
yep, yep.
I, I just want to make sure that we're kind of able to differentiate between
Yes,
each.
we will be able to. Yep. It
Okay.
won't be based on the user, but we have other options. Like we could use
Mhm.
labels, or we could use components or epics. There are other ways to yeah, to set them
So
apart.
actually, you know what? I don't think I have a. Let me do this real quick. So I can come back here and change
Yeah,
the
you could
username.
change this
Yeah.
later if you want. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to do that because I don't think I have developers set up in Jira. Okay.
All right. And then yeah, base URL will be your whatever your Atlassian instance is, probably
Uh-huh.
unblocked at Atlassian.net, something like that.
Yeah. It should be.
Yeah, so if you could just copy the everything up to .NET there, and that'll be fine. Okay, so if you hit the save button there, it should. So now that's updated. Great.
I have
So
a,
what we
just
could
a
do
quick
then?
question. You know, like when you
Uh-huh.
set named credentials, I believe, or something else, I can't remember. There's like a little sort of issue if you have like a backslash after the base URL. Like for example, if I had here
Oh,
.NET, is that,
the forward slash.
yeah, is
I
that
don't
ever
think it's.
issue
I don't think it's
here?
going to matter for this,
Uh-huh.
honestly. I can't remember. But yeah, I don't think it matters.
Okay, no worries. I just kind of discovered that the hard way. That can be
Yeah.
tricky, but I just want to make sure. Okay,
Yep.
no
Yep.
worries.
Yeah, but this way will definitely work. So, um,
Okay.
okay. So then, if you go to the default section on the left-hand side again, and here is the here's where we set up the details for how we pass information to Jira. So basically, um, you probably don't need more than one template for tickets for right now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
good to have that default set up, and then if later on you need to tweak something or have certain things flow into Jira differently, you can always set up your depending on per each rule, you can set up an issue template as well. But yeah, so let's I would recommend checking the first two checkboxes there. So what that will do is it will first of all generate the similarity labels. So these are automatically generated labels that are going to get attached to every ticket that Pharos creates. And these labels allow you to easily search for similar tickets in Jira. And there are
Okay.
two of them that will get appended. You'll see the H2 underscore value and H3 underscore value. So those are every ticket that's got those same fingerprints will have those labels. So you can just always have a filter in Jira, or you could just click on the label when you're viewing a ticket, and it's going to give you a list of all the tickets that have the same label. So it's kind of nice. It gives you kind of the same ability that you have here in Salesforce with looking at these logs. And the second setting there that I also recommend checking to auto-relate tickets with similar errors. So this will actually link the tickets together if they are similar. So in addition to having the labels there, you'll also have, you know, how Jira does the issue linking. So they will do that automatically for similar errors. So go ahead and check that second one there. And then the third one you don't have to worry about, because this org has, it's just the logs are created and stored in the same org. So that third one there, it doesn't even really matter. What I'll just briefly talk about what that does. But basically what you might have is, if you're, let's say, piping all the logs from your staging, UAT, and prod into one environment, what you might end up with is a ticket that, so you might end up with an error that's the same across different environments. So Pharos will think that it is the same error, and it won't actually create a JIRA for it, or it, you know, depending on your rules. But if you check that third setting, even if you had that ticket logged for staging, it will still log a ticket for the same thing in production. So it's just like it makes it kind of work within each org, so it doesn't know about issues in other orgs. I don't know if that made sense, but this is basically so you can track each environment's issues separately, even if you are aggregating them in a single environment. But like I said, yeah, in our case, that doesn't matter because we just have one environment. Okay, so then if you open up that issue template, if you select a project where you want that to go into, so yeah, so you could, so here we go, here's the Veritas, and then it'll pull in some information here in a sec. Okay, issue type, I recommend setting as a bug. Yep. You don't have to assign it to anyone by default. It'll just be whatever your JIRA is configured to be as. Like sometimes you might have it set up as default assignee is the project lead, which you can set on the project settings in JIRA. Well, if you don't have that set up,
we will volunteer Himanshu for this one.
All right. Okay, priority. I would go, you know, again, this will take the default whatever you've got in your JIRA, but you know, medium is usually a good place to start. If it's production, I don't know, maybe like I would recommend observing, you know, what kind of stuff you're gonna get from the org, since it is, you know, it's unclear at this point what the volume is going to be, what like if you guys are going to get swamped with this, then maybe it makes sense to just drop it to medium. But if you get, you know, an issue once in a while and you look at it and you're like, oh, you know, this is really something that we should worry about, then maybe you come back here and set this to high, just to, you know, to reflect the priority a bit better. Okay, so the other one is the components there, and this is again optional. So these are JIRA components. I'm not sure if you guys are using that, but if you want to set a component, like maybe like for one of our clients, we have a component called production support, and we always stamp these tickets with production support. You could put it under an epic if you've got an epic. You could put
we'll have to create an epic route for this.
Okay, yeah, you can come back and update this. But I would definitely recommend having a label at the very least. So we could say, you know, Veritas or Veritas Pharos or Pharos Veritas or something like that. And you, yeah. Yep, so and you can leave the subject.
Like say production, right? Because if we're gonna have, or does it?
Yeah.
Does it make sense to do that?
Yeah, I think it does. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. If you're gonna have the staging one, then yes, definitely put production here.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can leave this blank. It'll just put the defaults in there. So go ahead and hit save.
And just a question. So these are the standard. So basically your API is reading the standard Jira fields, right? Like if
Correct.
theoretically at some point in the future, if we have something that's a custom field, will that be ever an option?
Yeah, so
to
right
map
now
to,
we
or
yes, so here so go ahead and hit save. Now I'll show you that in a sec. So go to so now that we've got the default set up, on the left hand side there's this section called field mapping. And this is actually exactly what you just said. So if you have a custom field, yeah, you could push through a field from the log record into your Jira field. So it will just all it is just two values that you have to enter, and it will work. The only thing is that is not supported right now is these are this is kind of a global configuration. So it always applies to every single Jira rule. It will always push these fields across. In the future, we're going to change it so that it is per issue template. So like you could have different mappings depending on the template, on the Jira template that you're using. So that
got it.
But right now it is a global setting. So it actually works for most of the things. If you don't have a field set, you know, that's not going to do anything. So that's just as simple as that. But yeah, so that's it.
And then from, I guess, just so for as a future reference, if we're trying to do something a little bit more custom, so this is all, I guess I'm just kind of guessing now, like maybe partially some of the system standard objects, Salesforce system objects, and then partially fields from your object from the managed package, or how does?
So this is all of this is these are all the fields on the log record.
Oh, I see.
And these are all custom fields, but you know they're packaged. A lot of these, there are some of them that are filtered out here, like are the Pharos system fields that it uses for its own purposes. So these are not going to be in that list. So there are more fields on the log than this, but the ones that you can pass are these ones, and you know you could do quite a bit here.
I see. Got it. Okay.
And yeah, if you create a custom field on the log record later on, like maybe you want to track some additional information, you create a field on your own, on your own, it'll be available here as well. So you can leverage that field. Yep. Yeah, awesome. So that list is dynamic. It's based on what you have in your metadata.
Very cool. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. Okay, awesome.
Yep. Yeah, so go ahead and delete that one on the right-hand side. I think it's okay to leave it blank, but I would just remove it just in case. That
I
blank
see.
mapping. Yeah, there's a delete button. Okay. Yep. Okay, so then we could go ahead and set up our first rule. And I think this will be sufficient for the near future. You know, again, after some time, you guys will probably have a better idea of what's coming into the org and what what makes sense to track, and then you might start adding some exceptions to this rule, or you might create a different rule. Yeah, but go ahead and go to the issue creation rules there on the left hand side, and yep, here we go. So go ahead and hit the new button. So these rules, I'll just let's say a couple things real quick. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and create one, and then we'll come back to that list, and I'll talk about it. So you could call it, you know, I don't know. I would just say all new errors, and this is in the description. We could say that, you know, every new error gets logged into Jira, something like that. Yep. And all we need to do here is we just go ahead and hit new and add new there on the criteria. And all we need to do is just select one field from the list, which is called is new. It's going to be right. Yep, perfect. And then just type in equal true. and you can save this one. So if you scroll up, there's that save button there. So here we go. So that I think that'll keep you guys going for a while. Later on, if you come back to this, you can update the criteria. Like let's say there's a rule that you don't, there's some errors that you don't really care um, about tracking. You can come back there and add more criteria to filter them out. If you decide to add a new rule, the way it works here is, kind of like case assignment rules or lead assignment rules, where you've got a certain order implicit. So it will actually start from the top of the list and move towards the bottom. And the first rule that matches is what it's going to use. So there, if you add a new rule, you'll see the little arrow symbols that you can use to move your rule up and down the list. So that way it's, you can then arrange it so that it makes sense, right? So you have your more specific rules at the top, and then you have all the catch-all stuff, the general stuff towards the bottom. So that way it's, you're guaranteed that it will go through in the right sequence.
Okay.
So that's that. And if you hit the back button, we're done with this section here in Jira.
Okay.
What we could do next is we could set up Slack. And
Okay.
I remember how to do that now, so I could talk you through it.
I think
Hello,
Himanshu has a
sorry
yeah.
to, yeah, so I have a
Yeah,
few
yeah.
questions.
Uh-huh.
So here, what is this active button? So if it is inactive, it means this rule will not execute, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's a good point. I forgot to mention that. Yes, exactly. So active is what you would expect. If it's set to false, then the rule will just not fire. If it's set to true, then it is going to fire. And you have the show inactive control at the top there next to the search field that will toggle the visibility of those.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yep.
and can we clone the rules which are similar? Like we don't want to create the new rule every time. We want to just modify the existing rule. So is there any functionality to
Yes.
clone?
Unfortunately, right now, there's not an option to do that from the UI. But that
Okay.
is something that we definitely are looking to add, this cloning capability.
Okay, and one more thing, like for example, we have created one rule, and for example, if same error is occurring again and again, then it will execute the same rule again and again, and all the tickets will get created, like same ticket will
No,
get created, right?
no. It will create only one ticket.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, if it's the same thing that's falling down, might fall down 10 times today, 30 times tomorrow, you only have one ticket in Jira. And the so what actually probably a good time to get into this a little bit too. So if you if a ticket got created from this rule, let's say, and
Mm-hmm.
you've marked it as resolved, marked it as done in your Jira, and then there's the same exact error happening after that. So in other words, you marked something done, and then you see that error happening again. In that case, Pharos will actually create a second ticket, and it will link that second ticket to that first one that got marked as resolved. So if you, yeah, so if you do like fix it and then it shows up again, it will get marked as a regression in Pharos,
Mm-hmm.
and another ticket will get created for it, linking the previous one.
Okay, and my another doubt was like, for example, I have created one rule for me, and Wook is also created one rule for himself. Now, for example, if error is occurring, so is there any feature like this rule will execute based on the user who has created the rule?
No, so there's no notion of owners or users on this. Unfortunately, there's that created by field, but it just tells you kind of who did it. But all rules are equal, and they will always
Mhm.
fire regardless of who is, who's doing stuff.
Okay, and my next question is like,
Mm-hmm.
can you please edit this rule?
Yeah.
For example, we have selected here the text field, and then we will have to provide any custom, I mean the date in the value column, we will have to provide any string, right? So is there any feature like pattern matching, like to define the regex, and like if pattern is matching with this regex, then it will avoid us to add the text hard coded values here.
Yeah. So in if you've got a string field that you're trying to create a criteria for, like a text field, it will. The only option here is to use the contains operation. But
Okay.
what you could do is you could create a formula field in Salesforce on the log record, and that you can write whatever formula you want, and you could use that here in the criteria to then help you. So that's actually a pretty good practice. Like if you want to maintain a whole bunch of things in, like if you, this is something that you could do, like, for example, you want to see if the class name is this or that, right? So you might have a list of those, or you might have, if you're looking for a certain token in the error message, you could definitely create a formula field looking for all those tokens, and then just
Okay.
plug in the one field here, and you never have to change this setup again. You only have to change the formula field. So that's something that that can be done, yes.
And also it also supports the date time field. Like I want to create a rule in that, like
Hmm.
I want to create the tickets after this specific date or this specific time. So
Hmm.
does this support?
Yeah, I think if you select if you select the datetime field, you'll have the option of picking a date, and then there's a greater than and less than. So kind of like your numeric comparisons will work here against the date.
Okay,
And
and there is
mhm.
no option for time.
There is, I think, well, is there a time field in Salesforce?
No, I was asking for the date time field, so which is the combination of date and the time.
Okay. Yeah, that should work. If you select a datetime field, it should give you that ability.
I think like
Okay.
Nemanja, remember on Pen when we were working, was there like a new data type for time in
Exactly.
Salesforce?
There
Yeah, there
is.
is. Okay.
Yeah.
So that they have a time
Yeah,
time
it
field
was
now.
like I think
Okay.
in the latest release. Or
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, yeah.
But again, if there's something that you're not able to do from this, and we've deliberately kept the criteria kind of
Okay.
straightforward and simple.
Yeah.
You could always go back to formula fields and then just use them here. So in formula fields, you could do whatever you want with the date times and time fields and all the things like that. Obviously, we cannot keep up with Salesforce and their formula engine,
Mhm.
so we just kind of rely on it really to give us the flexibility. But here in the criteria, it's you've got your basic operations for the most part.
Got
Yeah,
it.
sure. And also, is there any limitation to add the fields here, or we can add fields as many as we can?
There's no limit on the criteria.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the only limitation is it becomes kind of hard to manage if you've got 50 of them here, for example. But there's no hard restriction in the system on supporting these or anything.
Okay. And you told us like to create the formula field. So where we will create this formula field in the log object, right?
In the log object, yes, exactly.
Okay, okay, got it. Yeah, this was from my end.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, good, great questions.
Cool. So you mentioned like Slack, and I was wondering
Yes.
one thing. So we have a Jira and Slack integration to
Hmm.
where when we are creating new, not for every project, but in general, we have like project to channel. So each project has its own
Project-based
channel.
channels, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that will work just fine.
Yeah,
You
I was
don't
just
even have
wondering,
to
would
use
that
Slack.
be redundant then, or?
It might be. It might be.
Uh-huh,
So the other use case that I could think of that
uh-huh.
might uh, actually benefit from a dedicated Slack message is
Mm-hmm,
if you set up a monitoring rule and you set it
mm-hmm.
up so that it only pings you in Slack as opposed to creating a Jira, then that might be the use case to, and it might warrant setting up a separate Slack. But if you just want like all the
What's
tickets
the?
that are going to,
Uh,
yeah, all the tickets that are going to get created from this rule, your Slack connector will tell you about it in the channel if you have it set up to do that. So, you know, in theory, you don't need an additional step here, but
mhm.
for monitoring, I would, you know, I would recommend setting it up just so you have it as an option.
Well, let's set it up.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to integrations there on the left-hand side, and go to Slack and just hit that checkbox there. So so then we got to go to your Slack, and I'll show you exactly where to go. So if you go to Slack and then in your
Is
company
it under?
setting,
Is it like settings? Yeah. Settings.
yeah, it'll be so it's going to be customize and a block.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So it'll take you here, and then on the left-hand side there is configure apps option towards the top there, and the one above, there it is. So if you over here, then go to custom integrations under manage there. Yep. Okay. And so what you could do, let's see, replacing custom, right, sure. Let's see, why doesn't it give you the option to do bots here? That's interesting. Go to app management
I'm
settings.
wondering here, just 1 second. I'm using this Brave browser. Sometimes it blocks some of the
Oh,
client side content, but no, nothing. Okay. What were you saying?
yeah, interesting. So there should be an option for bots here. Let me
Mm-hmm.
double check what it looks like for me, but pretty sure. Let me just do the same on my end. And you just have a regular plan, right, for this, like a standard
The
plan or
like a,
something like
yeah,
that.
business plan, whatever.
Connect to the accounts. Let's see, is that no? App management settings. Okay, so maybe go to app management settings. Okay, so that's the same for me. Let's see. Yeah, I wonder you don't have bots in there.
Yeah, I might have to check that part out, but we can maybe skip on to something else because I do have another hard stop today at 9.
Okay, okay.
I don't know. I'll have to kind of Google this. See why I don't
Or
have that option.
there's another option.
Uh-huh.
Maybe if you, let's see. So if you go to apps under manage
Mm-hmm.
on the left hand side, see if we can do that. And there, learn about managing installed apps. So these are your, okay. Okay, give me 1 sec. We'll
No
just, if
worries.
this doesn't work, then we'll come back to this. But
Sure.
yeah, I wonder it doesn't. Okay, so if you go back to the custom integrations, there's a link from there.
Mhm.
if you click that switch to Slack apps there, creating a Slack app, and here's the make a new Slack app. And if you hit that link there, I think it will, oh, here we go. Let users converse with, okay. So you could start here, and I think this is actually going to do that. So go ahead and start. I wonder if this is just going to give you a video. Okay, and if you scroll down, go beyond. No, this is all. Okay, so create a Slack app, and you could call it create an app. Okay, here we go. So you could call it, you know, Pharos or something, Pharos.ai. And you select your workspace, which is just going to be your, yep. And go ahead and create app. Okay. So hit the bots thing there on the, that's going to be on the left-hand side there. Oh, no, sorry, on the right, in this list of the incoming webhooks, and down below that, there's bots. Yep. So if you hit that, assign a scope to your bot token. Okay, so review scopes. And I think you just, if you do install to workspace, I think that will.
It's not an option.
Oh, it's not, it's disabled.
At least one permission scope.
Oh, okay. So you have to select add an auth scope. That should be available then.
Let's see. So that should be.
So you can.
Right, or sorry.
App mentions, channel history, channel join. Yeah, I think you need the right. And you might need to.
Usually if it's a write, you have a read too. I don't know if we need a.
Yeah, that I think that's what it is. And then if you add another one for join channels, there was one
that?
there. It's
here.
If you add another auth scope, yep. Channels join. Oh wait, there's more stuff under there. Let's take a look. What else we got? IM. Okay, so this is really all we need is IM. We don't need the calls. So IM right. Yep. Well, you can remove the calls because it's not going to call you or anything. And join channels is the other one. I think that should have.
This one.
Yep. Okay, great. Scopes that access user data and act on behalf of users. Okay, so I don't think we need that. And let's see, restrict API usage. Yeah, again, we don't care about that. Okay, so if you go up, now we should be able to install to workspace.
Yeah. This is it, right? Perform actions in channels.
In channels. Yep, perfect. Okay, so now here's the bot auth user token. So if you copy that, that is the one that we want for our config here. Yep, so go ahead and copy that and save. Oh, interesting. Maybe we need something else there. If you hit save again, does that give you an error again? Okay, so can you come back to Slack for a sec? Redirect URL. Okay, so this is for distribution. I don't think that we necessarily need. I'm thinking that maybe there's a scope that we need to add here. Let me just double check if I've got any scopes here set up on this guy. Translate global enterprise IDs. No, it shouldn't. Yeah, for me, it looks totally different, actually. It's not even, not in a, okay, well, let's see what else is here. Read, pins, reactions. No, that stuff is,
Yeah, it doesn't look users presence
or close steps. Is there like an all scope or something like that?
I don't think so.
No.
I'm wondering
oh,
if
channels. What was there under? Oh, maybe user read, view people. No, that
where
shouldn't.
was it? User read
Profile. Yeah, I don't think it's. Okay, so if you go up, there's something with the channels there. I think that might channels manage public channels and create new ones. Channels read. Maybe that's what we need. Channels read. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it will actually give you channel selections. So maybe that's what it was missing. Okay, so if you go up, I think you'll need to, yeah, so reinstall to workspace. There we go. Try
There
that.
should be a new token.
Yep, it gives you a new one. No, it's actually the same one.
Yeah, it looks the same.
Okay, well, let's try it again. If it doesn't work, then we'll come back to this.
I think it did work.
Okay, so it looks like that's good.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think we probably should put some instructions here that these are the scopes that we require, because it looks like the setup's changed and now you actually have to set this up yourself and put these scopes in. Okay, so so then what you could do is if you go back, let's set up some monitoring. No, you don't need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
because your Jira will do that. Normally you would turn that on and this would like ping the channel, but in our case, you've got your Jira connector, so it's all good. Or Slack Jira connector, I should say. All right, so if you go to monitoring, over here, yep. And just enable that. Yep. So let's set up a rule real quick here, and we might do this. You might come back to this and do this later. I would just set up like a spike rule. Let's say, well, what do you think would make sense? Maybe we could say, I mean, as a good practice, it's.
Oh, we don't need that. There's already a rule type. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So you could just say more than 5 errors in 1 hour, let's say, or more than 5 errors in. We could even say in 1 minute. So that will give you like, okay, something is spiking in production and it's probably a good idea to take a look. And then here you could put notify a Slack channel when there are more than 5 errors in 1 minute. It's good to put, as much detail here as possible because that's, it'll actually, it makes sense when you come back to this, it'll help a lot. So what you were thinking there. Okay, so then rule type is spike as its default, and then down below we've got our count greater or equal, and we could set that value. It's set to 10 right now. We could set it to 5.
Sorry, do one thing here just so we have a little bit more of a descriptive. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so under the threshold there, you have a count greater or equal, and just update that 10 to a 5. Okay, and then hit that drop down. There should be, if you scroll all the way down, you
Custom.
select custom, and then just type in 1. Okay, and we don't really need a criteria here because we're just gonna, it's gonna look at all the errors. Like later on, you might add to this if you get spammed in Slack all of a sudden, you might come back here and update this. And I'm happy to talk to you guys through it again, like what would make sense. And it would really depend on what you're seeing, but you know, you might choose to restrict it to be okay. If it's 5 of the same error, or maybe you switch to an impact rule where it's based on users more than the just the errors themselves. But let's add a notification here, and all the way at the bottom there's a notification section.
Okay.
Go ahead and add new, and then select the Slack from that options list. Okay, and then what you could say is here, you could type in pound, you know, whatever your channel is called.
Let me see, just double check. But
So it'll be you can just say Veritas, and you might actually have to invite the bot to this one because it's a private channel.
We'll just have to change it to public.
You could either change it to public, or I think if you should be able to invite a bot here, or you could create a new channel, and that probably is a good recommendation for now, just because you know you might be communicating here, and then all of a sudden you start getting these notifications. So I would just create a new channel, maybe call it, you know, Veritas Pharos or something like that. Yeah, that's perfect. And yep.
Does it need to be outside Anablock?
No. Yep, that's good.
Okay.
You don't have to add anyone. Yep, the bot will be able to see it. Okay, so if you go back to Pharos there and just type in pound Veritas-Pharos. And then we just have to come up with a text for the notification. So here it's going to tell you new event, you know, and the link. So what I would recommend is putting something in the subject where it's actually like a description of what's happening. So more than, you know, 5 errors happened in 1 minute in Veritas production or something like that. Perfect. And you can remove that event link there. We'll put it in the body. So here, just a couple things to note. So this event link will actually, it will be a Salesforce link that'll take you to the instance of that event object. And what we could do here is also, you know, you could change this later if you want, but for now, let me just, if you hit, do a new line here, and then we'll insert one of the fields. So let's add, I think it's called event details. So if you just type that in, event details, there we go. So just hit that. Yep. And then the other field to add here would be, I think it's a record count. Oh, number of records. There we go. Yeah. So that tells you exactly how many errors it got. So you might be, you know, it's set up for more than 5, but you might have had 15 or something like that. So.
Did it add it?
Did you insert it?
Oh, maybe I didn't. Let's see.
Interesting.
Number records.
Yeah, try that.
There it is.
Okay, here we go. And then you could change this text later. I would just put maybe new event and then link, and then hit the new line, and then put the details on the next line, and Actually, what you could do is you could grab that record count and throw it in the subject. And instead of the 5, you could say more than, or not more than, but you could just say that value
Like this.
errors. Yep, exactly. Yep. And you can remove it from the body if you want. So that's a good place to start. And then you can always come back here and update this. Go ahead and hit add. Okay, and then scroll up and hit that save button. And that's pretty much it. So we've set up this rule now, it's activated. So it'll ping you in the Slack channel when there's more than 5 errors in 1 minute that are happening. So it's a good place to start, later on, depending on what you see coming in, you might adjust this or you might add something else. So
by the way, my meeting just got canceled. I got a notification.
Oh, okay.
So I'm good for.
Yeah, I can stay on for a few more minutes. That's not a problem. So yeah. So I mean, really, at this point, I would say this is a good place to start. We've pretty much set up everything. We don't need to worry about archival for now. I guess we could set up a rule that deletes everything, that's older than 1 year, something like that. You could have. It could be useful depending on how many logs you have. Or I mean, it's up to you how long you want to keep these errors around for. Maybe it's even something like 6 months, or 3 months, or I wouldn't go below 1 month just because it's, it tends to, it will give you some good historic perspective, so you can do some analytics on these errors later on. If you just have 1 month worth of data, it might not be enough. It might be enough for some orgs, if you got hundreds of things falling down every day, it might be enough, but I would recommend at least 3 months of retention. Yeah, I mean, that's really it. And then the log util, that's on the left-hand side at the very bottom. So this is your what you could use in your code to write the logs. And you could copy this and just adapt as is, or you can, you could start introducing your own methods here. One thing I would recommend is making use of these enums there, the category, the type, and area. It's going to be below that, I think. Yeah, so those are good things to put on your logs, just so you have better analytics and better understanding of where something happened. So area is kind of your functional area, right? So for example, you've got an opportunity trigger, maybe call that opportunity management, or if you've got some non-cases, maybe call it case management, or if you've got like some controller in the community that's doing something, you want to do logs, you could call it, whatever that community name is, support community or something like that. So, and you can, obviously what it provides there is just some defaults, but you feel free to change that and according to what makes sense for this org.
I see.
And then, yeah, type is you typically, front end, back end is kind of a good place to start. You could start maybe adding stuff here, like maybe, if you've got a lot of batch jobs running, or maybe there's like an integration that you want to track separately as a type. You could add an integration type to this. Category is typically, I would keep it as is for now. Error warning, event debug are kind of generic, and I think that'll serve you well.
I have a question about these methods. Kind of maybe stretched question to a certain extent, but it's like, for example, these guys are working with Squid UI. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I've not worked with it, but I know what it is. Yeah, it's this WYSIWYG,
exactly. So I'm just wondering, and there it's a different team really within the organization that manages it. But I'm just wondering if you've seen any kind of scenarios where you could potentially um, try to log something related to the Squid UI
So
issues, or because it's a little bit of a different. I mean, it's kind of like a data model that the Squid UI is.
right.
Seems. I'm wondering. It might be off
Well,
topic completely for this conversation, but
no, I think it's an interesting use case. So
uh-huh.
so the squid stuff has an engine behind it, right?
Yeah.
That will do something. So, and if it's going to update any records or change anything, that'll probably happen in Apex. I would think, right? Is there like a some notion of a controller or something, or does it have
I'm
like
not
a?
really that familiar. I kind of worked with another client like 3, 4 years ago that had it
Mhm.
too, but yeah, I don't really touch it much, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to, investigate this a little bit more, and maybe you guys could help me with that too. It's like, okay, so you've got
This right
pages
here.
here. Okay, so you've got some pages here, and then how do you make it do stuff? Like, how do I save an account from here, for example? Or is there like it probably has some sort of a process builder
Do you know
analog that?
Himanshu? Like I sort of like
Uh,
I always switch to light, and this is like for classic Salesforce there this implementation. So what I generally do, I just switch to
Hmm.
Lightning, so I bypass this graph. Um,
so
I
actually,
mean,
it is a managed
mhm,
package. So uh,
right.
I don't think we can modify the Apex controller to include the code.
So what will happen is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to manipulate records in Salesforce, right? So it'll save records, it'll update records, delete records. So all of that is going to go through Pharos, all those DML operations,
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
because that's the bottom line, right? Is your data. So if even if it's initiated by Squid, it's going to eventually end up in the database, and will if it produces an error, we should be able to grab that. Now, if there's maybe some sort of exception handling from here, there might be a way to create a log record directly, or create a platform event, but I'm not familiar enough with this
Mhm.
to tell you if it's possible or
Yeah,
not. But
that's fine. We can potentially research a bit more. And part of the,
Mhm,
I guess, my question, the reason I'm even asking is because they
mhm.
are having a hard time upgrading now from this version of Squid to the latest, I guess, and the greatest version.
Oh,
So I'm not necessarily part of that process, but I know they've been doing it for months now, and just
mm.
causing major headaches. So I thought maybe potentially we could help in some
Yeah. I mean,
way, but
we'll see what we get. Maybe it
mhm,
will actually grab errors from this, because at the end of the day, it's running on Salesforce, right? So it's gonna have to talk to the backend at some point. If
yeah,
they have some Apex classes that are behind the scenes doing stuff, like they have a controller for all this generic UI, they probably have some sort of Apex engine running, and if that produces an error, we'll see that come through in Ferris,
mhm,
but it will unfortunately will not show the stack trace because it's a managed package, but at least you'll see that there's something happening, and it'll tell you the method where it fell down.
mhm,
So that might be a good place to start, and then maybe point you in some direction to troubleshoot this. But yeah, if you guys, as you work with this, I'd love to know more, on how this
sure,
works, and what are the patterns that it's using and stuff like that, and maybe we can have a better integration with Ferris for this thing.
definitely.
All right. Yeah, so I
Um,
definitely would make use of this log util for your custom code as you're building triggers and stuff like that. Just, put your try
mhm,
catches in the right place, and use these methods. So the most common method to use here would be, if you scroll down, there's like an add error. Um,
right here.
yeah, so this will, so the way it works is you have the ability to either instantly log something, or you can buffer them and you can log them all at the same time. So this might be good, like if you've got a for loop and it's doing something and you have a try catch inside the for loop, then you can keep adding the errors to this logger instance, and then at the end of the day, when the loop is done and you've got some errors saved up, then you can do a flush, and it will go ahead and save all of those logs at once. Or if you don't want to, if you just have a single error that you want to handle right away, so there's a method down below. It's just called error. So this is add error, and then there's there's one for warning and one for debug and all of that. Here we go. So this is error. So as you can see, what it's doing is it's calling the add error, and then it will call the flush right away. So it's gonna immediately send this off, and it will get a log record will get created. So it's using platform events behind the scenes. So what it will do is it will send a platform event, and that'll get processed in a trigger, and will create a log record. So that's actually a good thing, because if you're just doing DML and you have a problem in your transaction, it will roll back all of the DML, but it will not roll back platform events. So if you had, let's say, a piece of code that was executing and you had an issue and you did the .error call, it will send the platform event right away, and regardless of what's going to happen to that transaction later on, it will not get rolled back. So you always have that log record saved.
Very cool. I think we should maybe look into adding, I guess, some of these methods to that, the whole like vision rent framework, because we have a massive amount of code for one of the features we built for them, because I think that this could be very helpful.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you've got custom code, I would definitely recommend making use of this. It's going to help you guys a lot, knowing where things are falling down, and if you pass these types areas and things to the log, you can then, build your reports and stuff and make use of it that way. So definitely a good practice. And you can see there are a couple different things, a couple different parameter options. So one is, the simplest one is you just pass in the area and the exception. And so if you're doing a try catch and you're catching an exception, you can just pass that through to this util and just pass in the functional area. And it'll, you don't have to do anything else. So it'll grab all the information from the exception.
Okay. Very cool.
Yep. The other thing that was worth mentioning is just super quick here. So if you go to dashboards, and oh, by the way, before just a couple more things. So you don't have to use this log util as is. If you've got one already, or if you're looking at this, like you're seeing, okay, there's like debug and things that don't need that. You could just remove that. So you're free to keep whatever you want from this, add to it. It is completely yours to do, whatever. This is not managed package code, as you can see. You have the ability to add it to your class, one of your classes that's already in place, or you could just use this as is. So really, options are kind of limitless here.
Got it.
Okay, yeah, so if you take a look at the dashboards real quick, there is, so if you search recent dashboards, if you go to all dashboards at the on the left-hand side, logs dashboard right there. So this is kind of your out of the box dashboards. Of course, nothing here right now because we have no log records yet, but these are essentially, you can see what it's trying to do here. And again, this is something that you could totally redo if you want, or you can remove certain things from this, or
Mm-hmm.
or you could create your own dashboards. I think it's a good thing. What I would recommend, just a couple things here. So first of all, today's errors and today's new errors is a good thing to look at. So you just filter by created date, right? Created at as the field that we use for the logs. So if you just set that to today, and then have the is new flag in your filters, that'll give you the that view of today's errors. So it's just a good thing to kind of keep an eye on, if not on daily basis, but somewhat frequently, especially initially, just to kind of
Okay.
see what you're getting, and what are some of the things that are getting created. And then so that is, I'd say that's probably a must-have. Everything else is really up to you. Like, here's the all errors view. Like, that's going to give you a timeline, a trend of these things happening. It's just to gauge how how you're doing, how the org is doing, and you might actually see some patterns from this. Like, maybe on Tuesdays there's a huge error spike, and then Wednesday and Thursday it's kind of calm, and then Friday again there's an error spike. So it will probably correlate with the org usage patterns, or it might correspond to like some sort of batch process failing or something, where it's running on Tuesdays. So it
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you have in the org, this view might be useful. It'll clue you in on some of the patterns that are happening here. The other one that's kind of
And
useful
what
is
is the
uh-huh.
like in general? I don't know what's the underlying architecture that you have in place, but what's the latency between an error
Mhm.
occurring and being basically us being alerted and also being rendered inside of the dashboard? Or is
So
it
the
basically
dashboard,
like near real time or something like that? Or
yeah, it is very, very close to real time. So if
Mhm.
you, yeah, let's say Salesforce determines there's an exception that sends you an email. As soon as you get that email, this will get added to the org. If you've got a custom code that is logging the error using that log util, if you do a try catch and then do a log that error, that will send out a platform event. And depending on when that gets processed, it usually happens right away.
Okay.
Then the log record will get saved. And then once that you have a log record, you can come here and refresh the dashboard instantly. We'll see the change. Now, I think there's some restrictions, like you can't refresh the dashboard every minute, but that's really a Salesforce limit. Beyond that, it's if as long as there's a log record, it'll show up in reports and dashboards. For monitoring, well, okay, so if you've got a notification that needs to go out to Jira or to Slack, that'll usually happen right away as well. Sometimes there might be a little bit of a latency because it needs to make a call out, and it needs to send this data to Jira. That's usually pretty quick though. For monitoring, our kind of commitment is to be able to support 1 minute interval. So if something happens, a monitoring rule gets triggered, it'll look for that 1 minute window, and it might take the whole minute. So you might have a delay of at most 2 minutes where something got triggered in production and you being notified about it. So it's pretty it's pretty close to real time. And of course all this varies with the system load and if how Jira is doing. Sometimes they have their own problems, and Slack has the same. So these other services are kind of a part of this equation.
Of course. Got it. Okay, but in general, it's really near real time, so that's
Yep, that's the idea.
really nice. Okay.
Yep. And if you scroll down to the bottom of this, there's a dashboard here, and I think this dashboard is a great place to start. You might not even make any changes to this. Over here down below, you see Apex errors by managed package. So this is another one that's kind of useful to keep an eye on. it'll, if things are falling down in the managed packages, it will actually tell you what the namespace is, and you could see what the errors are. So, if that squid package starts crapping out, this will be probably caught here, if anywhere. And then if you've got other things installed in that org, probably good to keep an eye on those through this dashboard too.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it, for now. This is, we've got you some integration set up. We've got a monitoring rule configured for you. There's the Jira rule in there as well. So I think it's a perfect place to start. And then depending on what you guys see coming in, you might start adjusting those things. And I'm happy to do a follow-up session once you've seen data come in, and like we could take a look together and see, okay, what's happening here. Let's, what can we do? Yeah.
No, that's awesome. This was very helpful. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, totally. No problems.
So I think our next step here is Himanshu is going to kind of mimic this setup in the production
Sandbox.
org. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Sandbox. And then we'll ping you if we have any questions.
Yeah, please let me know if you run into problems or if you need some more clarification on stuff. Happy to help out.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I'm not sure if there are any questions, or if not, then I believe we are good for today.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
let me know.
everyone
Let
for
me know if anything.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, have a good night.
Bye bye.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.